Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are finally going to go ahead and get our chives started. Now I was actually supposed to do these a while ago. You're able to go ahead and sow them 6 to 8 weeks from your last frost date. So I'm still in that range. However, I wanted to go ahead and get them started because I am going to be doing an overseeding method where we're going to go ahead and overseed a bunch of 6-cell packs. And then what's going to happen is after 2 or 3 weeks after they germinate, we're going to go ahead and divide them into their own 3-inch pots. And then you can actually even go ahead and divide them again. So I really want to go ahead, try this method out because you know me, I love overseeding. I feel like it happens every single time I go ahead and seed start. So let's go ahead and get started. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Kristy. I am located in Massachusetts, Zone 6A with an average last frost date of May 15th. And I'm thrilled to go ahead and get some perennial herbs into the garden. So I actually plan on using my extra cedar picket fencing that I use for my garden beds to go ahead and make some kind of more permanent structure that I can go ahead and put my chives in. Now the area with my garden, or all my vegetable garden beds, I should say, it has some weed barrier and some rocks on there. So I'm gonna go ahead, instead of putting them in pots, because sometimes I end up just dumping them out towards the end of the year and then going ahead and stacking them into the garage. I want more of a permanent structure, and I have a lot of leftover cedar picket fencing. So I figured why not? It would be perfect, and we'll go ahead and match my garden beds. Now, when you start your chives, it says on the back of the seed packet, it can take anywhere from 7 to 14 days to germinate, and you're gonna wanna keep your heat mat at an average of 65 to 70 degrees for that. So it's actually perfect because I just moved my heat mat over here on a table, did some rearranging because I needed the space for when I go ahead and start potting some more of my perennials up. So I'm gonna go ahead and move them over there afterwards, and it's just actually gonna be so much more convenient. Chives have a hardiness zone of 3 to 9, so it's perfect as I am in 6A. So I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully overwinter them. I'll put some leaf mulch over them at the end of the year, and then every 3 to 4 years, you wanna go ahead and divide them. Now, I don't know if I'll actually use them in my own kitchen, but I know that a lot of my coworkers like them. And they were always asked for when I had my farm share, but they actually didn't have chives for us to go ahead and harvest. So I thought, why not? I'm just gonna go ahead and get those started. You actually can direct sow them. Now on the back of one of the seed packets, it did say that it's actually recommended for you to go ahead and direct sow them, but I just wanna go ahead and just get a jump start as always. And I plan on, again, I have 2 different chives. I have one from MI Gardener and one from my free heirloom seeds. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start 2 6-cell trays, one for each. And then, as I said, we're gonna overseed them and then we're gonna divide them up and pot them up later on. So I'm gonna be starting, again, 2 different varieties today. So this is just, it says chives, it's from MI Gardener. So we're gonna go ahead and get these started. And then I have these Nelly chives from my free heirloom seeds. It says they have a medium to fine leaf and they produce almost for forever. And I get about 50 seeds in this packet. So we're gonna go ahead and get those started. If you are new to seed starting, we're gonna go ahead and just do a quick overview. So what you're gonna wanna go ahead is, I don't like to start with dry seed starting mix. I just take my Espoma seed starting mix and I go ahead and put some water in it. That way it has some moisture. And then it's super important to go ahead and make sure that when you are filling your any kind of trays, either these little 6-cell ones or 40, 72 count, whatever, make sure that you go ahead and have the soil firmly pressed down to the bottom. So that way when you start bottom watering, you're not having these extra dry cells and you're realizing like, why aren't they getting wet? It's because there's air pockets. So you wanna go ahead and make sure you get all the air pockets out. And then I kind of don't press as firmly as when I get to the top. So I just kind of like lightly push it in that way. The seeds, they still can go ahead and germinate and the roots have some space to go ahead and develop and not be obstructed. But on the bottom, I do go ahead and give it a nice firm press. So this looks pretty good right here. I'm going to also go ahead and leave a little space on top, and then I'm gonna lightly just go ahead and cover them with some extra seed starting mix. So again, I just make sure, I would say like the first half of my cell, I do a nice firm press down. That way I have no air pockets, and then that way hopefully I can avoid having some dry cells when I go ahead and start bottom watering. All right, so we have both of them ready to go. Today is going to be March 29th. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my little plant tags ready. And then hopefully in a few weeks, we'll go ahead and divide them up. So first we have just our M.I. Gardener chives. And then we have our Nelly chives, which again are going to be from the free heirloom seeds. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with our Nelly chives. Again, I'm going to go ahead and just do a good helping, a good pinch, and I'm going to go ahead and then just lightly cover them with a little bit more seed starting mix, and then I'm going to also do vermiculite as well. Now the best part is you can actually see these seeds. They're not super small like say basil was, so it's going to be easy to pinch. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the whole packet. And just really sprinkle them in there. And then I'm gonna give a nice, good, firm press. And then I'll go ahead and cover them up before we go ahead and top them with some vermiculite. All right, so that's the whole thing. Again, pressing them down, just making sure they have good contact with the soil. And I always found to make sure you check your fingers afterwards because sometimes they might go ahead and get stuck to you. So we'll just do a nice light coating of some extra soil. And then make sure we tap that in as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my vermiculite and just do a nice fine little sprinkle. And then we have our mister. I'm just gonna go ahead and spritz them in. And there you go. It's as simple as that. I'm gonna go ahead and fix the camera so you can go ahead and just see it from my point of view. And then we're gonna be all set today. All right, so here we go. We have our seeds from M.I. Gardener. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my plant tag in there. Again, everything is pre-moistened. And this is how big the seeds are. So they're actually easy to pinch. It's gonna make it a lot easier to go ahead and just get a good pinchful in each cell. So there we go. Again, really overseeding. We're gonna go ahead and press them down. And this should be plenty to go ahead and give around afterwards. We're just gonna go ahead and just gently press down. Again, making sure that they have good contact with the soil. And then I'm just going to take my extra seed starting mix and we're just gonna go ahead and make a nice little fine layer. Or you can go ahead and take the back of a pen or a popsicle stick or your dauber if you want. And you can even just go ahead and swish them around in the top part of the soil. But I'm just gonna go ahead and just put a little bit on top. As it doesn't say anything about needing light to germinate, it says you can actually and put them underneath the soil on the back of the seed packet. So we have that all set. And then we're gonna go ahead again, just put a nice little layer of vermiculite on top. And we'll go ahead and spritz them in and we're gonna actually be done for the day. So it's gonna be just super nice and quick. You can go ahead and probably get this done in like 5 or 10 minutes once you have everything that you need. And there you have it. And there you have it, simple as that. It probably took us maybe less than 10 minutes to go ahead once you have everything set up. You're just gonna go ahead, put this in your little humidity dome and on your heat mat around 65 to 70 degrees. And that is going to take about 7 to 14 days and germinate. And then you're gonna go ahead, let them grow for a little bit. And then in a few weeks after they go ahead and germinate, you're gonna go ahead and pot them up into a 3-inch pot and keep dividing it. You can even divide it again. I watched someone where they went ahead and said that each cell and divide it 4 times before you go ahead and plant it in your garden. So I'll probably keep some for myself, either give them to some of my coworkers, or I'll go ahead and put them at my flower stand once that's up and going in May, hopefully. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you find these helpful. I know they're kind of sporadic. I try and get everything done, as I said, during nap time. That is my free time, and it actually looks like some of my little ones are up right now. So if you find these helpful and you want to stay updated, go ahead and click like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I will see you next time. Happy gardening. Bye.